And it's not surprising because that really gets to the heart of these market questions, right? If this is the current condition on Greenmount, who's the natural market that wants to buy a home there? Who's the natural market that wants to raise a child there? Now you go half a block into the neighborhoods, that's a different story. But right there on the street, it's a cycle of disinvestment. Poor conditions beget poor conditions, beget disinvestment, beget disinvestment. And what we're going to do is we're going to try and lay out for you how we would approach ending that cycle, not overnight, but step by step, bit by bit, ending that cycle so that Greenmount Avenue is no longer a no man's land, no longer the alley behind your neighborhood, but the front door of your neighborhood. No longer a wall that divides neighborhoods, but a zipper that stitches them together. And that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to start by addressing the technical issues of transportation. And Kenny's going to come up, he's going to talk about this from a transportation perspective. What do you do within Greenmount itself? And then we're going to move out away from that and talk about the bigger picture of the...
Hello, my name is Ken Schmid. I met a lot of you people last night and yesterday. I am a traffic engineer by trade, so I was brought in for my expertise in the traffic engineering field. I'm an engineer, and I normally fight against planners and architects because I'm more reasonable and practical. But I had a very good experience the last 2 days, and I think we've worked together and come up with some great ideas. Existing conditions of this road. For the most part of this road is 40 feet wide with very little delineation of lane use or driver guidance, what we call it. The area in front of the cemetery is 52 feet wide. Okay. Based on the traffic numbers I've looked at, even during the peak hours, we need one lane in each direction along this corridor. So this was built a long time ago. We designed roads a completely different way. This needs to be reinvented and rebuilt. Topics identified by the stakeholders before we started our PATH program. Pedestrian vehicle safety at the 24th Street near Munn Park. Okay. Challenges in the 26th Street area with one-way patterns. Vehicular speed and pedestrian safety at the Greenmount Cemetery area between Greenmount Cemetery area and the area between 25th and 28th Street. And a traffic light timing and signalization along the entire corridor. There's approximately, I think, I counted 10 traffic lights along this corridor. Most of them are concentrated to the north, and then you get past North Avenue to the south, and you have a long stretch of no lights, and then you get into lights down towards the southern end of the corridor. We met with stakeholders yesterday afternoon and yesterday evening, and I tried to summarize the top 5 or 6 topics that were brought up. Through traffic drivers are not respectful of driver laws and community impacts. Blinders on, they drive from one end to the other, trying to get to work as fast as possible, and don't understand and don't realize and don't respect the local community activities that are going on. Overflow at the train station parking into the local community. You can find out a little bit more of that. There is a residential parking program that goes up to Barclay. I think there's a request to extend that neighborhood parking zone up towards Greenmount Avenue. Bus lines have too many stops and are not geared to community needs. More designated crosswalk locations to connect the east and the west side neighborhoods, especially in the area where we have no traffic lights and wide open roads. Traffic speeds along the corridor must be addressed. Everyone said that. And bike lanes separate from vehicular travel lanes along Greenmount should be provided.
Thank you very much.
After all our discussions and our listening to the stakeholders, we came up with some long-range goals for the corridor. We need to redefine the road space better to serve all modes of transportation: people, bikes, cars, and pedestrians. We need to take that 40-foot of pavement and bring it in and manage that roadway width so we can improve pedestrian safety, so we can improve walk times for pedestrians across the street, so we can just make all four modes of transportation work better. Right now, this corridor is set up for cars, and that has to change if this area is going to redevelop. Coordinate demands at key intersections of North Avenue and 25th Street and along the Green Mountain corridor. Also, the lower streets middle were also added for our conversation. There are major nodes, intersections, and we can't take those down in one lane. They have to operate. They have to have some turn lanes. They have to have bus drop-off areas and such. So that area we have to be cognizant of capacity and traffic flow through the major nodes, but they still can be made safer for pedestrians, and that's focus. Review the transit operations along the corridor and make changes to minimize the impacts to other transportation modes. Upgrade signage and pavement markings provide what I call positive guidance to pedestrians, bicyclists, and drivers. Lane markings, signs have a purpose. They tell you what to do, tell you where to be. And if they're not kept up and maintained, they lose their significance. A little more detail about the transition of Green Mountain Avenue Road environment. Where we have wide open spaces, where we have the 52 feet in front of the cemetery, we could put medians in. We need one lane in each direction for travel. We could consider bike lanes on each side. We have protected parking drive aisles and medians, and just take that space and pull it in and confine the flow, and it gives you a better perception of where you're at. Right now, you just think you're driving down a 40-foot wide speed limit. So this is an example of what we could do along that wider section. Where we have more narrow, where it goes to 40 feet, we can't afford to have medians and such, but I think we need to maintain Orange Street parking throughout the day. See the demand for lifting Orange Street parking during the AM in the morning coming in and PM in the morning and in the evening going out. That causes a lot of disruption for people actually want to park there, have to move their car every day. So, and it's not necessary. I think we can keep that parking and not affect the traffic safety. Now this is not for the major intersection nodes, but this is for the more unsignalized minor intersections. And that's this example down here, where we narrow down the pavement by intersections to 22 feet. We reduce the amount of space that people have to walk across the street. They're in danger, and then we create pocket parking lanes between the blocks. This area up here is an example of what we could do in the area of the rec center. We can create a at-grade crossing along that mid-block area by narrowing the road down to 22 feet and put in a crosswalk, and maybe a raised crosswalk that not only operates as a crosswalk but a traffic calming device with proper signs and indications that this is a high pedestrian area. Key nodes, intersections, North Avenue and 25th Street. Traffic signal operation timing must be dynamic to adjust to changing traffic patterns throughout the day. Traffic patterns along this corridor change from 9 o'clock in the morning to midday, and then it changes again in the evening. Traffic signals are the technology on traffic signals and controllers and such have changed dramatically over the years, but that type of technology needs to be tried to be implemented here so we can adjust our timing of our traffic lights to accommodate the ebb and flow of the traffic. People get frustrated when they sit on the side road for however long waiting for a red light when nobody's coming, and that's because it's time for the peak time in the morning or afternoon and not in the midday. And traffic flow can improve greatly just by adjusting those traffic times. Upgrade the pedestrian ramps, signal timing, and crosswalk locations to provide positive guidance to drivers as well as pedestrians. attempt to balance the demands of the different modes of transportation. Buses demand a certain thing that affect cars and affect pedestrians, and cars affects buses. So there's a balance between all these different designs, and we got to try to make sure all the modes are equally accommodated for. Transit operations, this is very high transit corridor, and it has very high transit nodes of 4th Avenue and 25th Street. We must engage MTA to reevaluate the location and number of bus stops along the corridor. This was taken just this afternoon. There's a bus just down by Biddle Street that has area to pull off the road, but they did this to block traffic, so they could get out easier. That has a domino effect on the corridor. We got to be able to give them places to pull off and let traffic go by, especially some of these buses are handicap equipped, and when they stop and pick up handicapped wheelchair people, it's 5 minutes of time, and they block traffic for 5 minutes. And people wind up going around them, which is very unsafe. So, develop strategies to minimize the impact, but allow important modes of transit buses to thrive along the corridor. Buses are important. The more ridership you get in the buses, the less cars you have on the road, less people biking or walking. It's an option that is important along this corridor, and it needs to be maintained, but it just needs to be fine-tuned and make sure it's all in alignment with all the other modes of transportation. Short-term improvements, got to upgrade these existing markings and signage. This is an example of an intersection in the area. You can see the faint appearance of a crosswalk, faint appearance of some signing in here. This, as I said before, causes disrespect for the rules. If it's worn out and it's not there, then nobody cares about it. So these things are short-term things. I think in operating budgets that can be done to try to identify all the things that are going on through that intersection. Investigate traffic light timing and phasing options to optimize pedestrian vehicle and transit operation. Again, that's an operational type thing initially. We can fine-tune the timing patterns throughout the day, and then maybe long-term look to upgrade the equipment and the coordination and the ability for the traffic system to actually accommodate the changing traffic flow. And pilot programs, we talked about taking away parking and taking away travel lanes in the morning and afternoon and trying to narrow down pavement. So we can test that. We don't need to build that improvement. We can test it to see if it works. So we can, for instance, the mid-block crossing by the rec center, we can temporarily narrow down that pavement and put that crosswalk in, and let's see what effect it has. And if it's good and it has good results, then we look for capital improvement money to implement such improvement. We can do the same thing with the parking, 2 lanes in each direction. We can pilot program and test these things out before we do a lot of investment in actually making improvements. So that's it for me. I'm going to turn it over to Tori and Karen to start talking about community needs.